안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
네, 반갑습니다. Good afternoon.
Yeah, 30 seconds now. Yeah, done. See.
Don't you? Go ahead.
Can I start now?
Yes.
Okay. Now that we have gathered together, it's almost time for us to officially begin today's webinar. Without further ado, let us move on to the opening session. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and esteemed colleagues, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining from different parts of the world. My name is Youngji Tak, head of the International Cooperation Team at the Korea Research Institute for Local Administration. It is my great honor to serve as the moderator for today's opening session of this significant event. On behalf of KRILA and our co-host, the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, through its Division for Public Institutions and Digital Government, and the United Nations Project Office on Governance, I extend a warm welcome to all participants to this webinar on innovative local governance, launch of the Handbook series for the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. This event marks a pivotal moment as we officially launch a comprehensive handbook series aimed at empowering local authorities and stakeholders with the necessary knowledge, strategies, and tools to effectively implement the Sustainable Development Goals. The handbooks that we will discuss today are not just publications. They are a testament to our collective commitment to fostering sustainable, inclusive, and resilient societies at all levels. Before we begin, I am pleased to introduce our esteemed speakers for the opening session. Ms. Haeyoung Kim, head of the UN Project Office on Governance, DPIDG, UNDESA, Incheon, Republic of Korea. Mr. Jae-bok Ju, acting president of KRILA, Republic of Korea. Each of them will share their insights on the significance of this handbook series and the broader implications for local governance in achieving the SDGs. I would now like to invite Ms. Haeyoung Kim to deliver her opening remarks. Ms. Kim, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Tak. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to all of you. Distinguished guests and partners, our webinar participants, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jae-bok Ju, acting president of the Korea Research Institute for Local Administration, KRILA, Republic of Korea. It is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you to this important webinar on innovative local governance for the implementation of the SDGs. And today, this webinar marks the official launch of the handbook series developed by the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, UNDESA, through its Division for Public Institutions and District Government, DPIDG, and its Project Office on Governance, UNPOG, in collaboration with the Korea Research Institute for Local Administration, KRILA. As you may know, to achieve the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, it is crucial to strengthen public institutions. These institutions play a significant role as effective, accountable, and inclusive entities in supporting sustainable development, and their importance cannot be overstated. This goal is more important than ever as we address the complex and interconnected challenges facing our world. The launch of the Handbook series shows our shared commitment to these goals. The Handbook series is not just a collection of publications. It is a dynamic and practical resource aimed at empowering local governments to take decisive action. The goals of this series are varied but unified, all focused on helping local governments become key drivers of sustainable development. It aims to strengthen their ability to create resilient and inclusive societies, integrate the SDGs into local policies, and encourage effective, accountable, and inclusive governance. By providing concrete examples and replicable models, these handbooks series serve not only as guide, but also as catalyst for transformative change. They complement the broader curriculum on governance for the SDGs developed by UNDESA, ensuring that the materials are both practical and adaptable to diverse local contexts. As we start this journey together on accelerating progress on the SDGs, let us remember that the success of the 2030 Agenda relies not only on the commitments made at the national or global levels, but also on the actions taken in our cities, towns, and local communities. It is at the grassroots level where sustainable development really takes root. I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to all the organizations and individuals who contributed to the development of this handbook series, most especially Karila for their incredible partnership. Your commitment to advancing local governance and sustainable development is highly commendable and deeply appreciated. I also want to thank our distinguished speakers, panelists, and participants for joining us today. Your great insights, experiences, and encouragement are what will make this event truly impactful and remarkable. In short, let us use this opportunity to strengthen our collaboration, share knowledge, and inspire innovative practices that will accelerate progress and bring us closer to achieving the SDGs. Collectively, we can build the sustainable development and resilient societies that the 2030 Agenda envisions. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and I hope you all have a productive and insightful webinar. Many thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Kim, for your inspiring words and for highlighting the crucial role of innovative governance in advancing sustainable development. Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Jae-bok Chu to share his remarks. Mr. Chu, please proceed.
Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and participants, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you joining us from around the world. I am Jae-bok Chu, acting president of Karila, and it is a great privilege for me to speak to you today as we gather for this important event on innovative local governance. I would like to begin by extending my sincere gratitude to our co-host, the UNDESA and UNPOG. This collaboration underscores our shared commitment to strengthening local governance and supporting the implementation of the sustainable development goals at the local level. Today's webinar marks the official launch of the Handbook series on innovative local governance. for the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. This is not just a set of publications, but a culmination of extensive research, practical experiences, and collaborative effort. It is a resource designed to empower local authorities and stakeholders by providing them with the tools, strategies, and innovative approaches necessary to meet the challenges of sustainable development. Local governments play a crucial role in translating global goals into local realities. They are at the forefront of addressing the needs of citizens, managing public services, and ensuring inclusive, effective, and accountable governance. The handbook series that we are launching today aims to support these vital functions by offering practical guidance, case studies, and policy recommendations that are tailored to the unique context of local governance. At Krilla, we are committed to advancing the capacities of local government in Korea and beyond. Through research, training, and international cooperation, we strive to contribute to the development of innovative, resilient, and inclusive local governance. The handbooks we have developed in collaborations with the UN DESA and the UNPOG are a testament to this commitment. They cover crucial areas such as digital transformation, social value in local government, and collaborative public administration, providing actionable insights that can drive meaningful progress. I would like to take this opportunity to express my deep gratitude to all the esteemed speakers who will be sharing their insight and expertise with us today. Your contributions are invaluable to the success of this event and to our ongoing efforts to promote innovative local governance and the implementations of the SDGs. As we move forward, I encourage all participants to actively engage in the discussions today, share your experiences, and explore how these handbooks can be effectively utilized in your respective context. Together, we can advance our shared goal of sustainable development and build a future where no one is left behind. Once again, I thank you for your participation and commitment to this important event. I look forward to the fruitful exchanges that will undoubtedly emerge from today's webinar. Let us continue to work together to strengthen local governance and achieve the sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chu, for your insightful remarks and for emphasizing the importance of collaboration between local and international stakeholders in this endeavor. We'll now have a brief virtual photo session. May I kindly ask you all participants to turn on their cameras for this moment? 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you. Now we move on to the next part of our session, where we will be introduced to the key features and objectives of the handbooks on innovative local governance for SDG implementation. Our first speaker is Mr. Praveen Mahajan, Program Management Expert at UNPOG DPIDG UNDESA, who will introduce the handbooks led by UNPOG. Mr. Mahajan, the floor is yours.
Greetings. Thank you, Yonji, and greetings to all the distinguished participants and panelists. So I'm going to introduce three UNPOG-led handbooks that we developed. Let me go. So the whole handbook, as you have already listened to the opening speakers, that these handbooks are co-developed by UNPOG and CRELA, and these handbooks are comprised of six. The series comprised of 6 handbooks. So the first, let me briefly give you the objectives of these handbooks. So the handbook series aim at supporting local authorities and other stakeholders in developing the necessary knowledge, skills, and capacities to implement the SDGs by introducing strategies, approaches, and tools by showcasing innovative country cases and experiences. So each handbook contains key concepts, strategies, innovative cases, actions and steps, exercises, and key takeaways. So the first handbook is on promoting local innovation for inclusion of people in vulnerable situation and leaving no one behind. So as you know, ensuring no one behind is the central to the 2030 agenda for sustainable development, and it requires local actions, bold action to end poverty, curb inequalities, and fast track progress for disadvantaged group. So this handbook covered these issues, and it focuses on promoting and harnessing innovations to foster social inclusion of people in vulnerable situations and the principle of leaving no one behind for local governance. It introduces innovative approaches, strategies, practices, tools, and people-centered action to mitigate social vulnerabilities and achieve the SDGs. It also aims to contribute to developing the capacities and skill of local government officials and other relevant stakeholders in promoting innovation for inclusion of vulnerable groups and ensuring leaving no one behind at local level, definitely to advance the implementation of 2030 agenda. So there are like 5 thematic focuses, which are not limited to strengthening inclusive and participatory governance for engagement of vulnerable groups in local policy process, providing inclusive local public services, leveraging ICT and digital government for inclusion and empowerment of vulnerable groups, building inclusive mindset and developing capacities of local governments and other stakeholders. Next, we have the Handbook on Effective National to Local Governance for Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation. As you know, global crisis and climate change and our interconnected world are changing the risk landscape for local communities. So local communities must address this physical, cyber, or logistical and resource-dependent risks to maintain progress. So this handbook addresses these issues, and it guides the readers towards roadmap, policy framework, toolkits, manuals, and peer support to help cities and local communities to invest better in practical actions. So this handbook also builds on the global good practices and the training toolkit that was developed by UNPOG, DPIDG, UNDESA, the training toolkit on effective national to local public governance for SDG implementation. So this handbook focuses on these 5 thematic focuses: multi-level governance, institutional arrangement, policy coherence, multi-stakeholder engagement, monitoring and evaluation and reporting. And all the chapters are constructed within the building blocks of people-centered local governance innovation approaches. And the third handbook that UNPOG led is Strengthening Resilience in Cities and Local Communities through Innovation and Digital Government, which offer insight into the matters of technology, digitalization, innovations that transfer the social and economic foundation of cities and local communities. So this handbook provides guidance for cities and local communities on how to strengthen resilience through various approaches. These are summarized in 6 thematic chapters as shown in this slide. And it introduces concepts, approaches, tools, and innovative cases supported by existing initiative to strengthen resilience through innovation and digital government. And it also guides the reader to know the roadmaps, policy toolkits, and approaches to help cities and local communities to strengthen their resilience and invest in the practical actions. So this handbook is also built on global good practices on effective governance and on the training toolkit on risk-informed governance and innovative technology for disaster risk reduction and resilience, which was developed by UNPOG, DPIDG, UNDESA. And these handbooks, the handbook series are freely available in UNPOG website, UNPAN website, and KRILA website. So you can you can click these QR codes to freely download these 6 handbooks. And thank you for your kind attention. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to respond to those questions. Thank you. Back to you, Youngji.
Thank you, Mr. Maharajan, for that comprehensive overview of the UNPOG-led handbooks. Your insight into promoting local innovation and effective governance strategies for SDG implementation are invaluable. Next, I'd like to invite Ms. Youngju Kang, Director of the Local Administration and Innovation Office at KRILA, to introduce the handbooks led by KRILA. Ms. Kang, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Ms. Kang?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Youngju Kang, and I'm excited to talk about 3 topics incredibly important for local governments in our digital age. These are part of the UNPOG handbook series written by 3 researchers at the Korea Research Institute for Local Administration. Firstly, I'm going to talk about a very important topic, digital transformation in local government leadership, human resources, and organizational structure. Let's start with some background. Digital transformation isn't just about using new technology. It's about fundamentally changing how governments operate to better serve citizens in the digital age. Citizens now expect their local governments to provide faster, more efficient, and more transparent services. Now, digital tools allow us to deliver services more quickly and effectively. So what exactly is digital transformation? It's about integrating digital technologies into every aspect of government operation, from leadership and human resources to organizational structure. This involves rethinking service delivery and leveraging data for better decision making. Let me give you some examples to make this concrete. In Sragen, Indonesia, the local government's digital leadership led to the creation of a one-stop service initiative that transformed public service delivery. In South Korea, the government invested heavily in training its workforce through e-learning platforms, ensuring that public servants have the skills needed to keep up with technological changes. And in India, the government established the Management Performance Hub, which uses data-driven analytics to improve the quality and efficiency of government services. Of course, this transformation comes with challenges. For example, leaders must keep up with rapid technological changes, and there is often resistance within the organization. But by investing in continuous training and creating a culture of innovation, these challenges can be overcome. In summary, digital transformation is not just a trend, It's a necessary evolution for local governments to meet the demands of today's citizens. By focusing on leadership, workforce skills, and organizational flexibility, we can make our governments more efficient, transparent, and responsive. Next, I want to talk about something that's become increasingly important in our world: collaborative public administration. As we know, governments alone cannot solve all the complex issues we face today. This is where collaboration, especially between the public and private sectors, becomes essential. Let's start with the basics. Collaborative public administration is about bringing together different stakeholders, whether it's government agents, private companies, or even in social society, civil society, to solve problems in innovative ways. Now, this isn't just about working together for the sake of it. It's about sharing resources, knowledge, and expertise to create solutions. A great example of this is the roadkill reporting system in Chungcheongnam-do, South Korea. Here, local government teamed up the SK Telecom and other agencies to create a system that allows citizens to report roadkills via a simple voice command on a navigation app. The information is then quickly passed on to the relevant authorities who can take immediate action. This collaboration has not only improved public safety, but also shown how technology and teamwork can solve real-world problems efficiently. We also need to think about how to model and sustain these partnerships. There are two models. The social innovation model targets citizens and involves public-private partnership with a mid to long-term focus, particularly in fields requiring technological expertise. In contrast, the administrative innovation model focuses on internal processes within the public sector, emphasizing short-term improvements and resource sharing among public entities. The key is to ensure that these collaborations are sustainable, with clear roles, shared resources, and ongoing support from all involved parties. Finally, let's talk about the implication of all this. For collaboration to really work, we need to expand the scope of who's involved, going beyond just public sector players and bringing in private sector partners. This means creating the right legal and support systems, securing dedicated organization or manpower, and fostering an environment where collaboration is a fundamental part of how we operate. In short, collaboration in public administration isn't just a nice to have, it's a must have if we want to effectively tackle the challenges of today and tomorrow. Lastly, I will introduce the topic of social value of local governments. Why is social value so important? First, it addresses global challenges such as sustainability crisis and limitation of purely economic growth-oriented systems. And it suggests a shift in governance to focus more on social value in addition to the usual administration tasks. It also encourages local governments to create policies and practices that meet the needs and values of their communities. What is social value? Social value has a diverse and broad concept. In short, it integrates economic, environmental, and social aspects to foster sustainable development and improve resident quality of life. We can see some examples of how local governments can effectively promote social value through innovative policies. The Siquijoro Island government in the Philippines banned plastic bags, leading to environmental improvements and boosted tourism. Seoul's municipal government in South Korea passed ordinances that prioritize procurement from social economy organization to enhance social value. In the UK, the Salford City Council formed the Social Value Alliance to achieve measurable improvement in social, environmental, and economic areas, demonstrating how social value can be integrated into local governance. Now moving on to how we can implement social value into governance. This involves a few key steps. First, we need to embed social value into our legal frameworks. Next, we should promote collaborative governance. This means working together with various stakeholders, including the private sector and civil society, to achieve common goals. And finally, we need to train public servants who are motivated by these values, people who see the bigger picture and are committed to creating a more equitable society. In summary, integrating social value into local governance isn't just the right thing to do, it's essential for creating resilient, thriving communities. It's about making sure that our actions today don't just solve immediate problems, but also contribute to long-term sustainability and well-being. So far, I have briefly introduced the 3 topics: digital transformation, collaborative public administration, and the integration of social value into local governance. I hope this presentation provided valuable insight into how to make our local governments more effective and responsive to the needs of citizens. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Kang, for providing us with an in-depth understanding of the Aquila-led handbooks, particularly focusing on digital transformation and collaborative public administration. Your presentation has highlighted the critical tools and strategies available to local authorities. As we conclude this segment, I'd like to hand over the moderation to Mr. Samuel Dana, Associate Capacity Development Expert at the Ministry of Interior and Safety, Republic of Korea, who will guide us through the next session on promoting innovative local governance for the implementation of the SDGs. Mr. Dana, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Youngji, for an excellent moderation of the first session. I know the presentations were well insightful and were well thought through, and it has given us a good foundation upon which we are going to build the next session. So moving on to the next session, the session is going to focus on some innovations that are able to help guide local governance or promote local governance in the implementation of the SDGs. So we are privileged today to have 2 esteemed speakers. They are well known, they are renowned, and I know we may have crossed their paths in some of our events and other international events. They are coming to share with us some insights into how we are able to promote innovations in local governance to build resilient communities and in the long run, being able to accelerate progress on the SDGs. The first on my list is Professor M.J. Moon. He is an Underwood Distinguished Professor at the Department of Public Policy and Management at Yonsei University. And he's also the director at the Institute of Future Government. His presentation is going to center on promoting innovations in local governance for the implementation of the SDGs. Our second speaker is in the person of Dr. Non Ankara. He is a senior expert at Smart City Promotion Department of the Digital Economy Promotion Agency, that's DIPA, from Thailand. And he will give us some innovations in local governance for building resilient communities and accelerating progress on the SDGs. So before I call them, just be informed that right after their presentations, we are going to have all the Q&A sessions. So I'll entreat participants and everybody joining us to submit your questions or suggestions or inputs into the Q&A box. So without much ado or wasting my time, let's invite Professor Moon to deliver his presentation. Professor, you have your floor. You have the floor.
Okay. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Jay Moon. Since I have 10 minutes, I'll just quickly go over some of the PowerPoints that I prepared. And I'm sure that the PowerPoints will be available to the people of interest. Well, my topic is promoting innovative local governance for the implementation of the SDGs. And as we heard something about the handbooks available to all of you. And I think if you go over the handbooks, I'm sure that there are a lot of cases, a lot of insights, and toolkits, and I'm sure that you find them very, very interesting. And also the presentation by Ms. Kong, and I think that's also the recent research results. And I'm sure that there are a lot of insights you can get, particularly digital technology applications and collaborative governance and social values that we are all interested in. Well, this is me. And regarding the local government, I'm co-chair of the organizing committee for Seoul Smart City Prize, which launched last year through the World Smart Sustainable City Organizations. The headquarters happen to be in Seoul. And I'm also a member of Knowledge Council World Cities Summit, which is pretty much organized by the Singapore government. Well, where are we now on SDGs? Well, we all know the target by 2030, and we are very, very behind. And United Nations are really aware of that, and they really try to put together all the efforts to achieve the goals. But if I borrow the quotation from one of the high-level officials from United Nations, the world is awfully off track to achieve the sustainable development goals, so that we don't have much time, of course. And there are a lot of things that we should do. And I think, all the innovations we really try to promote through this webinar and all the handbooks available, and hopefully the local governments and cities and local communities really building partnerships for SDGs. And I think that's the whole purpose. Unless we have really good implementation at the local level, and there's no way we can achieve the goals. And I think that's the bottom line. Well, so that's why localization and local governance and urbanization seems to be the highlights. And as you see here, localization basically by improving local and urban governance. And the approach should be not only just a whole of government, but it's a whole of a society, of course, so that not only central, regional, and local governments should work together. At the same time, government and nonprofit and private sector should work together. And also, unless we really ensure the active citizen participations in these endeavors, and there's no way we can achieve. So I think the whole purpose of this webinar and how we really promote innovations, because we need innovation at the local level in many ways, not only institutional innovations, policy innovations, of course, technological innovations, and also the innovations in collaborative governance, so that there are a number of ways we can really promote innovations in different domains. And I think that's something very, very important. Well, I just want to introduce this book. This is written by Chris Ansel and his colleagues, Co-Creation for Sustainability. Basically, the idea is that, well, SDGs, and then how we really achieve the SDGs through local partnerships. Of course, local level innovation is key, and that's the primary theme for today's topic. And there are a number of things that we need to think about, how we motivate engagement, local actors, and also promoting the innovation at the local level. And political capital, social capital, very, very critical. And flexible participations, of course, we should remove all the red tapes and institutional barriers, of course. And also resource mobilization and interdependence, very, very critical. Not only just a hypothetical problem solving, but practical, pragmatic problem solving is very, very important as well. There are a number of opportunities out there. There are a number of initiatives out there. And this is one of the things done by Singapore government, for example. I'm part of this Knowledge Council member, World City Summit this year. And the overarching theme is resilient and regenerative cities, livable and sustainable cities. And there are a number of innovations, as I mentioned, how we use this technology to promote livable and sustainable cities and local governments. What about citizen participation? How we really vegetate the buildings to lower the temperature. So there are very important examples and cases. And today we heard that there are a number of examples introduced in the handbooks as well. Seoul Smart City Prize, which launched last year, and this is second year, and we have now 160 applications this year. And this is basically, we try to make the local government and cities more innovative in many ways. There are two areas we really highlight. One is tech innovative cities, how we use digital technologies to enhance the quality of life of the citizens, and also enhance the administrative efficiency and promote citizen participations. And also human-centric cities, which is more about how we promote the services for less advantageous populations in the cities. And so that more about cares, more about programs for disadvantaged populations. And there are a number of things happening already as we hear. And well, the question is how we really balance development and make them sustainable. Of course, that's key part. And there has been this mismatch. I just want to borrow one quotation from the Madeleine Albright, who passed away a couple of years ago. She was the first female American Secretary of State. And once she said this, we are taking 21st century challenges. So that we have new challenges, but we evaluate them with the 20th century ideas, so that our idea is old and our legal system is old, institution is old. And we're responding to them with the 19th century tools. Our policy instruments are even older, so that there is mismatch between challenges we face with and the ideas that we have, and then policy instruments we have. So that we need a lot of innovations, particularly in policy areas, so that we need to shift from policy incoherence to policy coherence. There are some drivers for local government innovations. These are the lessons drawn from a World Bank Global Report. There are 5 drivers. One is political leaderships in the local level, and institutional capacity building, as we all know. I don't have to emphasize this. Incentive mechanisms. Here, incentives, there are 2-level incentives. One is, what are the incentive mechanisms through which we really have different institutions work together? Collaborative governance is one of them. Not only the institutional level incentives, but also the incentives for the public servants. What are the incentives public servants work better? And transparency and technology, I don't have to emphasize. There are a number of policy tools available. Mainly, there are 3 different categories. One is the sticks, some of the regulations, rules and regulations that we have, law regulations, so that we should have right rules and then remove all the red tapes and then really target the goals, so that, innovation in rules and regulations. So the rule side, that's very, very important policy tool. The other one is carrot. What are the incentives that we have? Taxes, tax relief, incentive mechanisms, subsidies, grants, licensing. There are a number of policy instruments using monetary incentives and other in-kind incentive, have people work for SDGs. And the other one is summon, which is more about public information, campaigns, and make people aware of what we are doing. So that those are critical in terms of policy instruments, policy tools. Here, I want to introduce one concept called the construal level theory. Probably many of you are not familiar with this. The key concept of the construal level theory is that basically, they're depending on psychological distance, we tend to think different aspects. For example, if you have a long psychological distance, and then you tend to believe or put emphasis on abstract primary values. And if you have very short psychological distance, and then you tend to think about some of the concrete and specific aspects. Let me give an example. If you think about, well, 5 years, 10 years later, vacation you're thinking of, travel, 10 years later. And then, so the psychological distance is very far. And then what you tend to think is that what are the ideal place for your vacations? How can I relax and quality of time I want to spend? What's my preference? So that's primary thing you tend to think. If your psychological distance is very short, think about, well, travel tomorrow. And then you tend to think about your passport. Do I have enough dollar, foreign currency I have? What about hotel reservations? Very specific things. So that policy makers, people like you, we should at the long-term psychological distance, primary abstract things, at the same time, specific aspects as well, so that we need to have good balance. And I just want to borrow this quotation from the Athenian oath. Probably you know the Athenian Greek cities, they have oath. Let me just emphasize the last sentence of this one. We will strive unceasingly to quicken the public sense of civic duty. Thus, in all these ways, we will transmit the city not only, not less, but greater and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us. So that we should hand over the city and the earth to next generation, not only, not less, but greater and more beautiful. And I think that's the mission that we have. We should remind the reason why we should keep innovate ourselves, the governance at the local level. Life is like riding a bicycle. We should keep balance, short-term, long-term, specific, abstract, but we should keep moving forward. Otherwise, we will collapse. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Moon, for an inspiring presentation. Life is like a riding bicycle, and we have to constantly keep a balance. And thank you for highlighting the points that we are off track. According to the 2024 SDG report, it shows that we are woefully off track. And what it means is that all that we need to do is that strengthen collaboration, promote innovations, and make sure that there is collaboration and innovations at all levels, not just at the local level, at all levels across society and across all levels of government. And thank you very much again for sharing with us the drivers of innovations, which I found very, very important and which will be helpful for us. I would like to move straight to our next speaker in the person of Dr. Non Ankara. He will be delivering his presentation on the other aspects of innovations and all the great works they are doing at DIPA. Thank you very much and have the floor, Dr. Non. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Samuel, and thank you so much, Professor Moon, for giving us a brief overview of what does it mean for cities and municipalities to think about SDG from a really practical perspective, because at the end of the day, we have to be able to do something, and policy means nothing at all if we can't implement it. So let me start with this slide that I just got it from actually last year. The fact that one of the Thai cities have become one of the top smart cities in the world. In fact, the city traveled to Korea last year, back in September, and received the Best Partnership Award from the World Smart City Expo, which took place in Goyang cities in Korea last year. It was really an honor for us to be able to receive the award, but I think the story behind it is a part that is quite interesting and very pertinent to this discussion today about how we can innovate, how we can do less but gain more, and how we can actually thrive and strive for better environment for the urban living, especially the people who need to be able to extract the benefits from living in the urban environment, which has a lot to offer to citizens. So I'm going to start with this quick story of how this very small city, about 100,000 people of Nakhon Si Thammarat in southern Thailand, became a smart cities. If you go back in time for about a couple of years ago, people only know these cities as a place for religious worshippings. You go there because you wanted to look at the temples, you want to get blessed by some of the religious activities over there. But the past 2 years, the city have changed a lot. Well, let's see what it did, and let's see how this initiatives that we are able to actually put off has become one of the trademarks of the smart city models in Thailand. So what happened was that the city has been flooded for many years in a row, and that has to do with the fact that it rains about 8 months a year. And when you think of flooding, it's not just the damage that was caused by lots of water coming into the cities. The aftermath of the flooding itself, there has to be a lot of compensation for the citizens. There have to be the fixing of the infrastructure that was broken. There has to be all kinds of the money that we have to give to the casualties. And the investment landscape itself has also been degraded because nobody wanted to be invested in, want to invest in the cities that flood 8 months a year. So these things are chronic, and it's been critical to the city for the past few years. And we have been trying to find a way to fix this. The way that we usually do traditionally was to invest a lot of money into digital transformations to help the cities become better at managing. But again, transformation is a big word.
Dr.
And
Nam,
yeah.
please, can you swap your display so that we get a full view at the top?
I mean,
At the
it
top
looked
of
like
your
a full view on my side. I'm not sure how it looked on your
yes.
side. It looked like a full view on my side, though. I mean,
Okay, so at the top, swap. There's an arrow at the
swap
top.
display?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
this? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I've
Thank you
done
very
really do Zoom call that so many times. Thank you, Samuel. That was good. So what we're trying to do is that, well, how do we actually spend less money than we had? In fact, we didn't have that much money at all. If you think about 100 million baht, or maybe even more than that, to build infrastructure for the flood prevention. So at the end, we realize is that if we only have small amount of money to invest in this kind of project, we have to look at things from an innovation perspective, because we can't do things in the traditional way anymore because of the lack of resources. In this case, cash. So we look at what happened on the ground, and we realize is that there are so many layers of problems. For instance, waterways clog all the time, and that's because people throw stuff in there and trash, clogging the waterways, and therefore prevent the water from overflowing, and that's at the end causes the flooding to happen. Or communication is also a very important matters, because lots of people wanted to report problem to the cities, but what happened was that the analog process of filling in the form and informing the cities using the form itself takes time, and because of the analog form, we cannot leverage the digital information in order to find out where the problems are verified. And so when we realize is that this might be the gold mine for our digital process, because once we know where the problems are, once we know where the pain points are located, once we know where it hurts, we can actually drive our solution from there. So we turn things around. We flip the scripts. We make reporting problems on behalf of the city by the citizens much quicker and easier than before, as opposed to traveling to the city hall and filling in the form. We create a super app whereby people can just take a photo, and in the photo itself, as we know, there's metadata that contains timestamp, contains geographical information, contains the identity in numerical order of the person sending the information to us. So with this, we were able to use the data that we got in order to map out where the problems are. In this case, it's about waterway being clogged. So once we have this cloud source information and data from the citizens, we are able to turn it into a heat map. And once we visualize it this way, anybody, including our staff who are not well equipped with the digital skills yet, can look at these maps and realize is that all they have to do is to find the locations where the purple blocks, which are the locations where we got a lot of problems being sent to us, and waterway intersects, because that's likely to be the place where people saw the problem with the waterway clogging and wanted to report to us. And once the report system has been very, very streamlined, very fast, very easy, convenience on the side of the citizens as well as the staff to look at, and therefore being able to deploy and mobilize the limited resources to fix the problem, we were able to identify where problems are easier and then fix them, of course, faster as well. So with these solutions that cost a fraction of how much money we would have spent if we were to build a dam or we were to build underground waterways, it's a fraction of it, less than 0.1%, because it's a digital means. Therefore, we do less but gain more because we were able to utilize big data in the background, able to use cloud source information to produce these frequency-based heat maps. And now we are able to actually locate the exact points of where problems persisting. And therefore, if we fix them, we might be able to solve the problem of flooding. And in fact, we tried it a few times, and I'm happy to report that with these systems that we use, we were able to prevent the flooding from happening for the past 2 years. So the money that we spent was worth every penny. And that's not because we were able to come up with new solutions at all. These solutions of cloud sourcing data into the platform that is cloud-based in order to use AI, a basic AI, to analyze information, produce a heat map, is nothing new at all. It's 10 years old technology, but it's appropriate, it's purposeful. It's about thinking big, but trying to prototype things along the way and innovate along the way. And therefore, we were able to get solutions that not only prevent city from flooding, but also solve other problems like bedridden patients that need help, or the potholes on the streets, or the plannings of the systems whereby we want to make sure that the waterways are being redeveloped in such a way that enable the people to enjoy a water landscape, as well as for the water to overflow into the sea, and therefore preventing the flooding, or even waste management and so on. So I'm happy to report that as of today, we got about 80% of the citizens already on the system, already using the system on a daily basis, not only for reporting problems, but also from getting an appointment with the city hall, getting their pets registered so that vaccination can be delivered to them, the queuing system for hospitals, and many other things that keep added into the platform as we speak, because we were able to innovate with the citizens, trying to find a way that work for the people, and trying to find a way that make it easy for the decision makers and leaders, and at the end make it very easy for the staff to be able to perform, because they look at the graphic maps and they understand right away where the problems lie, and therefore they can mobilize their limited resources to solve problems really quickly. But on the side of the operators, people who are fixing the problems, we also have a system whereby at the end of the day, once the problem gets fixed, the people themselves who report a problem get to give stars to the government officials who fix the problem on behalf of the citizens. If they get a lot of stars, towards the end of the year, they'll get promoted. So this creates not only a sense of transparency, but also the sense of incentivization that enable even the staff themselves, who actually at the beginning thought of the systems as maybe giving them more problems to solve, and therefore they might not even have free time anymore. But turns out, because we manage the data so well, we were able to give the staff the ability to mobilize their resources appropriately, and at the end, they get compensated in terms of promotion based on the result they deliver. So that increases high morale for the staff, increases transparency in the systems, and of course increases more inclusivities among members of the staff who want to help and want to utilize digital system as a way to probe our process and system. So let me summarize is that by this example, based on what Professor Moon mentioned earlier about SDGs and how we might be able to create a system whereby people engage, not only the one at the top, but also the citizens themselves and those in the middle mediating the systems, the operators. First of all, we need to have the kind of technology that is not just good, but also purposeful. In fact, purpose might be more important than good, because good is very hard to define. Something is good but expensive, we can't use it. Something that's good but maybe we don't have enough people with the skills to use it, we can't use it either. But purposeful means it doesn't mean that it has to be the most advanced or most cutting edge. It just has to be something that fits with the needs of the society, fits with the needs of the people, fits with the behavior of those who might be utilizing them, and make good for themselves in terms of their enhancement of their livelihood. So purposeful is a keyword here, because we don't want to be the parents of here who think for themselves and imagine that the assumption they have about what's good for the baby, in this case the citizens, might be good for them and good for the citizens. It turns out the citizens are looking at it from a different perspective, so they're not getting what the cities are hoping to, that citizens will get. So purpose is very important here. The second point is that we have heard a lot about many cities trying to increase the number of technology adoptions in the cities. And sometimes it goes beyond just having enough technology. It goes into the domain of who have more technologies. And that's usually not very useful, because anything that we do, we have to spend money, and cash in this case come from taxpayer. So we don't want to just increase the number. We want something that is valuable. And in this case, I use this picture because many times I've seen people claiming that they have different 100 different layers of data for the cities. But when I ask more accurately about how many layers that they are actually using, and they couldn't answer, because at the end of the day, if you only had things that are sounds impressive by ways of number, but they're not very good in terms of delivering the value to the citizens. It is as good as having nothing at all. And the last point, which I want to emphasize, is about thinking big. But when you act, you want to act small with consistency. And the reason for that is that if you think big and act big for something that is unverified by the people who might be using them in the future, because we haven't done a prototype before, when you think big and act big like that, we might fail big as a result. So you want to think big, but the gradual process of prototyping along the way, if it's working, scale it up. It doesn't work, scale it down. It doesn't work at all, scale it back. It doesn't work at all, go back to the drawing board. And because we prototype along the way, the cost of these prototypes are not so expensive. So even if it doesn't work, it still doesn't cost taxpayer a lot of money. So the whole idea is of having a big thinking and act small in the process with the consistency is a key here. So I want to end with the slides that I believe to be the most important ideas that we are talking about today, which is about people. At the end of the day, people have to be the one to drive the process of growth and drive innovations for something that good for them as well. So people are not just the driver, but they're also the receivers. So in that synergistic perpetual process of the ecosystems of how innovation got created, we have to make something that works for the people, and we have to create incentivization processes in order to get people to get involved and engage, and therefore become part and parcel to how we drive our cities to grow together in a very sustainable way. And I think that which is the core tenets of SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Non, for such an insightful presentation. I think it builds on what Professor Moon mentioned, and you've shared with us some other great insights, especially ending on a strong note that we should put people first and making sure that people are at the center, both as beneficiaries and drivers of change. And I think the idea to make sure we solving civic issues with citizen-centric applications are very, very dear or dearing to us. And I also want to highlight that it's for the amazing job you are doing at DEPA, and also making sure that you are leveraging even basic technologies, not any so big or grand technology, to be able to deliver impactful service to this population. So in the end, technology, as you mentioned, should not just be appropriate, but it should be purposeful, something that adds value to what we do. And on that note, I want to use this occasion again to thank you both for the insightful and excellent presentation you provided, in addition to what we already had. So moving forward, now we'll be taking some questions from the floor. Whilst we wait for the floor to happen, I just want to quickly engage with our participants. So we want to have a quick quiz on our screen. We just want to recap 2 or 3 issues about the launch of the handbooks. And when you answer these questions, then we will now go to the questions I'll be addressing to our presenters. So kindly, my colleague will share the quiz on the screen. Kindly just respond to them. I will be running through with you. Then after responding to these questions, then I'll now come to address the questions to our participants, our speakers. So the first question is about what is the primary objective of this handbook series on innovative local governance? So just click on what you think is the right. Is it about promoting digital literacy in local governance, or what? The next question is, which of the following is not the focus of today's webinar? I just want us to run quickly through this. Then we have other question. That question 3 is, what type of institutions does this handbook series aims to promote at the local level? Then, yes, so we have 3 quick questions. Then I'll be providing the answers to you. So just want to, because we have a purpose for which we are we are launching this webinar, and want us to just quickly highlight some of these ones. So what is the primary objective of this handbook series according to our presenters, especially what Mr. Maharajan and Ms. Kang provided in the beginning? Then which of the following is not the focus of today's webinar? Then the last part is what type of institutions that the handbook series aims to promote at the local level. So for the first part, is it about promoting digital literacy in local governance, or is it to promote strategies and tools to support local governance, or is it there to promote? Okay, so let's be running quickly. I would just want to close on them, then we find out which. So in 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's end the post now and see what the responses are. So the first question, what is the primary objective of the handbook series on innovative local governance? So the correct answer here is B. It is to introduce strategies and tools to support local government authorities in implementing the SDGs. The question 2 is, which of the following is not a focus or the focus of the webinar? So 1 is strengthening resilience in cities through innovation, discussing tariffs between nations, mainstreaming policy framework for SDG implementation, and promoting innovations to include persons in vulnerable situations. So the answer here is B, I think about 80. So we have over 80 people, 80% of our respondents or responses correct. The last question is, what type of institution does the handbook series aim to promote at the local level? So I think an overwhelming majority are saying it is to promote effective, accountable, and inclusive public institutions. And that is exactly what the type of institutions we want to promote. And it's in line with the SEPA principles or the 11 principles of effective governance. Thank you very much for sharing your inputs and for your engagement. So I would just want to go quickly to our Q&A session. I will be taking some questions from the floor as well. But in the meantime, let's try to respond to these questions. Please let me know if you see my screen.
We cannot, Dana.
You see it, right?
No, no, no. It's blank.
Oh. Okay, I'll reshare again. Maybe share. I'm trying to reshare again. So the questions are just going to be, we'll be having the first question that we're coming to consider what are the most significant innovations for the implementation of the SDGs. So I think I want to get some insights from Dr. Non and Professor Moon. Based on your presentations and your experience and the lessons you shared, what are some of the common or significant challenges these local authorities face in addressing or promoting innovations for local government?
Well, the thing is that there are multiple challenges, of course. As based on my experiences talking to local governments in terms of SDGs programs, well, they do know the goals, but they're not really much resources to handle the programs, so that financial and staff resources lacking, and that's part of the challenges. And I think it requires a lot of support from the central government and collaboration with the central government and international communities. And that's one part. So that basically resource issues. And second one is the practical solutions which is one of the drivers, as I emphasized. And they're not really having good specific policy expertise in designing specific and practical programs critically related to the SDGs. So that, and I think that's part of the reasons why we don't have, innovations in policy level, because we so much used to the routines that we have been doing. So one, resource. Second, policy expertise in terms of designing specific programs for SDGs.
Thank you very much, Professor Moon, for the. So I want to take I would like to take feedback from.
Okay. Hi. So it's Non here. So yeah, I totally agree with Professor Moon. I think I like to amplify his comments that at the end of the day, resources are very important, and the whole agenda has to be understood by all the key stakeholders, because without which it would be very hard for people to get on the same table and agree on things that could lead to actual innovation. So my opinion on what are the challenges will come from my expertise and experiences of having worked for over the past decade with more than 300-400 cities around Thailand, and I've seen patterns of things that tend to be challenges. I think the first thing is the stakeholder. If we cannot get everybody on the same table and agree on things that would actually lead to a win-win solutions, it's almost impossible, because there's always going to be some kind of hurdles or obstacles coming from within to prevent the projects from being successful. So stakeholder people actually is very important assets, and we have to make sure that they understand they are aligned in terms of their goals, and they're aligned in terms of the benefits they're going to be getting from the project we wanted to do. The second thing is about trust. Trust is also very important, and that's why we need public-private partnerships as one of the key strategies for growth, because private is very good at something like market mechanisms, and they're good at solutions design, but private sector doesn't have the kind of trust that the public sector has for the people to buy in. So we need the public and private to work together to actually enhance a sense of trust and lead to a sustainable operations of any project we do. And the third thing is about regulations. In Thailand, for instance, and I think many countries have similar problems, which is we have outdated regulations pertaining to innovations. And when outdated regulations are governing the way we think, the way we innovate, at the end, whatever we do would not be able to get through the filter into the market. So we have to think about the regulatory amendments in such a way that enable the positive externalities to flourish rather than the negative ones. And I think the next one on the list would be about inclusivity, because a country like Thailand, for instance, we have so many people living outside of cities, and therefore these people are not getting access to digital means, let alone infrastructure. And in which case, it would be very hard for them to benefit from the kind of infrastructural building that are digital. That could be healthcare, that could be educations, and it could be anything else. And I think the final one would be about economy, because at the end of the day, money has to come from somewhere. From my experience, I work with many cities that have lots of money and good intention, but they don't have good projects, because the money, the good intention comes in to build projects that are good for just one sector of the stakeholderships and not the entire the sector of everybody involved. So at the end, it become a project that look good on paper, but get ignored in real life. But if we are able to come up with the business model, marketing strategies, management model that benefit everybody, we can get everybody on board. And that which is actually more important than having cash lying around, because as I showed in my example, the city of Nakhon Si Thammarat didn't even use a lot of money at all, because they didn't have a lot of money. But at the end, the fraction of money that they use compared to what they would have to spend physical infrastructure, actually more meaningful and more useful, because it gets people to be aware of the technicalities of what is possible. And of course, it's getting them to feel like they are part of the engagement structure, the ecosystem that make the city smarter as a whole.
Can I add one?
Yes, please go ahead.
Well, I just want to add one more challenges. Well, I think, the policy inconsistency and incongruence. In other words, sometimes we often displace the long-term goals, SDGs, for short-term visible immediate interest. And I think that happens a lot. And I think many of the local governments, particularly in developing countries, for example, if you have a choice between economic growth, immediate benefit and sustainable development, which you pursue long term. And then many politicians might choose the first one. So that the goal displacement in that regard is very, very critical. So that's why it's very important to have good balance, and also we should be aware of the true meaning of development. Development is not something that you do outside of the local community. Development is actually the meaning develop, open the and envelope, so that it's already resource and a potential is in envelope. You just open it from local. So that I think strategic choices, looking at the resources that we have in the local context, and then pursuing the various policy packages which are relevant to many different SDGs. And I think that's very, very critical. So I think some of the issues that we already discussed, they should be all aligned.
Thank you so much for the kind responses. I know they've been very helpful. So I would like to quickly go to the second question. So the second question is, how can local governments ensure that digital innovations are inclusive, accessible to all segments of the population? I know Dr. Non had previously shared some examples on that. And in the same way, I would like to also invite Mr. Maharjan and Ms. Kang, if you, based on your research you shared, if you want to share some quick inputs on that. I just want two quick submissions on this. And this will also be linked to the next question. Okay, and how can local governments continue to become more innovative and stay adaptive in achieving the 2030 agenda? So we can link this together. So the previous one is, how can they be innovative and to serve communities in vulnerable situations? So the floor is open. If any of the panelists can come in.
Okay, then may I answer quickly on this one?
Yes.
Okay, so local government can ensure the digital innovation that are inclusive. They need to adopt the proactive multi-pronged approach that focuses on accessibility, equity, and active participation of diverse group within the community. And some strategies may be promoting digital accessibility for all, like universal internet access, subsidized devices, accessible design standards. And another one is enhancing digital literacy and skill, like promoting this digital literacy program, community learning centers, and for youth and gender focused training. And the third strategy might be like fostering inclusive digital governance, for example, like participatory digital platform and inclusive policy making. And also the addressing the specific need of vulnerable groups is very important, because they are the one who are suffering a lot. So for that one, you can have the like culturally relevant content for those vulnerable groups, and digital health and education services. We can also leverage public-private partnership, and also now we are talking about this ethical and inclusive AI. So we can implement those ethical and inclusive AI, and also creating regulatory and policy framework for inclusivity, like digital inclusion policy, anti-discrimination law, and supporting digital social innovation. So these are some strategies that local government can use to ensure that digital innovation are inclusive and accessible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pravin, for the submission. I would like to quickly still open the floor to the other panelists if you want to come in to submit or share with us your insights on this. And how can how can local, yes, please come in.
Sorry, I'm taking the third question. I think that one is easier. I take the easy one all the way. Okay, so my strategy, our strategy was to use the 3R system. So at the beginning, we cannot just revolutionize everything from the get-go, right? Because you have to prepare people to be aware of it. You have to get people to be on board in terms of their ability to get access to the kind of new solutions that we're trying to provide to them. So there are layers of things that we have to do before we can get people to get involved in the projects that we do. Otherwise, at the end, you're not going to get any buy-ins, either mentally or commercially, and that at the end it's a disaster for anything that you wanted to call innovation. So what we do was start with reduce. So I said something like, if we wanted to create a new system for renewable energy, which is very important to SDGs, we don't start just by building new factories or plants to produce solar cells or the wind turbines, right? We're going to start with reducing the use of non-renewable first. And that process of reducing the use of non-renewable will get people, semi on board about what it's about to come. And meanwhile, we can build the skills and build the awareness and build the understandings of what might be the benefits of what they might be getting in terms of solutions later on. So reducing is the first steps. And once we start reducing, then we gradually replacing the old infrastructure, the old techniques, the old methods that we use that were not clean, that were not inclusive, and were not efficient from an ecological perspective, and gradually replacing it, actually providing people the time to get used to the new systems, the new methods, and the new protocols. And towards the end, then once the process of replacing and reducing start to bear fruits, we can actually use that as a way to springboard us into either getting funding or getting even more buy-ins in terms of public-private partnership from the private sectors and public sectors alike to reform the way we actually do things. So from the energy sector or waste management sector, we didn't start just by building incineration to turn waste into energy, but we start by replacing the use of non-renewable energy for waste management. And then we start to get people to be aware of the fact that separating trash is good for preventing trash to go to landfill, because we can recycle them much more efficiently. And then we start to replacing the system either by waste management and energy consumptions bit by bit. And towards the end, once people realize that cities have become cleaner, they actually have they have increases livability index. They don't go to hospital as often anymore because there's not much of the contaminated water around them. Then they start realizes that they might want something big in terms of how we might reform our innovations for the SDGs master plan. And I think the reduce, replace, reform, it's a good strategy for us. That align really well with what I talk about in my talk, which is about thinking big, act small, but with consistency, we can get to where we want it to be.
Let me share my perspective on question 2. May I?
Yes, please go ahead.
Well, for the digital innovations from the local government perspective, and I think there are 2 things we should be careful about. One is digital technology debt, and the other one is over-engineering problems. Digital technology debt, basically, we just like a debt, as we borrow money from bank, for example, when we buy properties or automobiles, and we should borrow money from the bank. So the debt is not necessarily bad, but if you have too much debt and then unmanageable, and then that's a problem. And digital technology debt, which means that the gap between your technology adopted by your local government and the top-notch technology, there is a gap. So it's inevitable sometimes having that technology debt. But if it's too much, and then you cannot catch up with. So that I think managing a proper level of technology debt is very, very critical. At the same time, we should avoid the over-engineering problems. Our idea is too noble, and then you really put too much on digital technology, which you are not going to heavily use, and then it's a waste of money. So that it's very important to avoid over-engineering problems. When I talk to local governments in many countries, and then their ideal level is very, very high. And once you put resources and then open the information system is not quite well used by citizens and by government officials either. So that avoiding over-engineering problems at the same time managing a proper level of technology debt. That's one. And here, vulnerable communities, and I think a digital gap an AI age, AI gap is critical. I think the many local governments try to find a way to use open sources. There is a lot of open sources available, and also technical assistance from different countries and international organizations. There are many programs offered by particular countries as part of the ODA programs and international organizations programs for digital information, digital technology innovations. So that those are something that we need to take advantage of. The other one is how you can make people really digital technology savvy. And there are three different sources we can pursue. One is through education system, so that young people through the education, we can give digital technology education. Second one is through welfare systems. So in other words, digital technology training programs through welfare, in other words, the disadvantaged populations and elderly populations, through part of the welfare programs, we can offer digital trainings. And the other one is through the equal development programs, so that there are wide gap between rural area compared to the urban area, so that you can use the equal development, balanced development programs, and you can incorporate digital training programs as part of it.
Thank you very much to Professor Moon and Dr. Non, Prabin, and Ms. Kang for your inputs or for your submissions. I know they've been very inspiring and insightful. I would just want to acknowledge that there was a question from Mr. Rilby Matthew. He was asking a question on how can we ensure that digital governance resists incidents of elite capture, but promote inclusive participation. I know these responses from Dr. Non and Professor Moon has been able to help in addressing this. I know they provided some examples and insights on that. And we also had questions from how African countries are able to benefit from these from Mr. Adenini, and how can African nations struggling with autonomy of local councils benefit from these initiatives. And I think the UN provides platforms like this to be able to bring in experts to help share these insights, and they are very important for us going forward. And I think our time is almost gone. We just want to, I think the responses provided by our panelists have been able to also address this, how local governments can continue to adapt and stay adaptive in achieving the 2030 agenda. And the last one could be, I know they've already mentioned in their presentations about the key stakeholders. So mentioning about it should be a whole of society approach, both private sector, civil society organizations, as well as NGOs, all people who matter in society are key stakeholders who should be engaged by local governments to be able to deliver, so that everybody should be able to help to make sure that society delivers. And whilst we are reflecting over our performance in the past and until now, we can understand that whilst we are off track, there is hope. When we work together, we try to innovate and do everything together. So I want to use this opportunity to thank our distinguished panelists once again, and thank my colleague Youngji for the beginning of the event, and also our special thanks goes to Ms. Kim and also Mr. Ju, acting president of Krila, and to Ms. Kang and Pravin for the insightful presentations you provided. And also the biggest of our thanks also goes to our participants. We should know that these handbooks being launched today are not just publications as mentioned by our speakers in the beginning, but these are publications that contains the needed tools, the strategies and innovative practices that we can all adapt and work with. We should also remember that whilst we work together to be able to help this, we must work as a team. we must make sure that we come together and work out together as partners. And whilst we go forward, we know that partnerships like this between UNDESA, between KRILA, and our partners from DEPA, and also our partners from Yonsei and other partners, potential partners in the future, are very key for us to be able to make the needed goal or achieve the required goal. So on this note, I want to thank you very much and want to also invite our distinguished participants who have joined us and for your engagement and patience until this time, that we would like to hear from you about, we need to hear from you to kindly provide your feedback on this webinar or on this launch through this link that we are providing on our screen. And once again, I would like to remind you again that all presentation materials, including the 6 publications, are on UNPOG's website, and you can download them free of charge. Feel free to apply them to your work, and we look forward to engaging more with you in future. Thank you very much again to all our distinguished speakers, participants, and everybody joining us today, and see you again in our next event. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much.